Welcome to Burns White Inside the Law, a podcast about the law and the people behind the practice. I'm your host, Jennifer Kelly, Director of Marketing and Business Development at Burns White. Today we're discussing one of the most significant trends impacting healthcare litigation, the rise of nuclear verdicts. Over the past several years, healthcare organizations across the country have faced an increasingly large jury awards, often reaching into the tens or even the hundreds of millions of dollars. These so-called nuclear verdicts are reshaping how those in the healthcare industry evaluate risk, they manage claims, and they approach litigation. All right, welcome back to Burns White Inside the Law podcast. I am your guest host today, Jen Kelly. I am here with our CEO and experienced trial attorney, Stuart O'Neal.
Thank you, Jen.
Welcome back to the podcast.
Thank you very much. It's great to be here in Pittsburgh with you.
I'm filling in for Ahsan. I mean, those are big shoes to fill, but we're going to try and do our best.
All right.
But talking today about one of the most most significant trends that we're seeing right now is this concept of nuclear verdicts, right? Mm-hmm. And, how over the past several years, it seems that healthcare organizations, institutions, and providers are really being faced with these increasingly large outcomes. Mm-hmm. So today, I'd like to just talk to you a little bit about that, get your thought on that. I'm sure you have some really good inside the courtroom tales that you can tell us about that. But for those, just to get started, who may not be familiar with what this term actually means, Can you give us a little insight
of course.
on that?
All right, so when a plaintiff has a case, for example, and they issue what's called a demand, and it could be anywhere from $100 to $100 million. It doesn't matter. It's whatever they think their case is worth.
Okay.
There are certain cases that are worth more than others. Through experience, through whatever industry you're in, through whatever damages can be proven. Now, we operate largely in the healthcare space. Obviously, we have, Burns White has capabilities well beyond that in commercial and contractual, but you and I are just talking about healthcare. And in cases where, the demand for what the plaintiff was asking for used to be $1 million, now it's $5 million. Where a jury would come back with something moderate, it's now $7 million. And so, there's a lot of clients that do not want to take a chance. They don't want to go to court. They don't want to risk the chance of what's called a nuclear verdict, an explosive verdict, where it's something that was not expected, that a jury may have been primed to give a larger reward for one reason or another that has nothing to do with the medicine. We see that a lot. I mean, jury psychology is real. Yeah. Society as we know it, everything is a lot more expensive. There's this concept of, healthcare providers are bad, and all the goodwill, I think, from COVID may have worn away a little bit, unfortunately. But with all that being said, where does this come from? And the answer is I don't know. But, I have a lot of respect for a lot of plaintiffs' attorneys, and they can issue whatever demand they want. And so the reason I keep bringing up demands, it starts with not just nuclear verdicts, but nuclear demands. And we're seeing demands in cases where it makes you do a double take. You go back to your notes and you say something along the lines of, we had this same type of case 3 years ago, and maybe from the same plaintiff's attorney that we've done business with before, and it was X, and now it's this huge number Y. So
it's crazy. Wow. So how important in these situations do you find that early case assessment helps to manage any of that exposure?
It's a priority. It's got to be a priority, and we try and emphasize that with our clients. We really counsel them, don't wait for a complaint. As soon as you get word of something that, either an incident or an accident, whatever the case may be, get counsel on it immediately to secure evidence, to do your investigation as protected by attorney-client privilege, and really try and figure out what happened. And to the extent you can inform your client very early on in this process, and I'll tell you, number one, it's appreciated. Number two, it opens a pathway for potential early resolution, which is good as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Have you noticed any specific types of healthcare cases that maybe trend towards these nuclear verdicts more so than others?
So anytime you're dealing with birth injury cases, those are prime examples. Anything with what's called a life care plan, where the patient is still alive after the incident, where ongoing care is required and needed, those numbers, along with inflation, have gone through the roof. So, if someone's going to be alive, fortunately, for another 20 years, but has been allegedly injured, the plaintiff's attorney is going to be able to show what 20 future years of future care is going to be. And that is not a small number. And that's where inflation goes into play, increased labor costs come into play, all types of things.
I see. Interesting. Do you think plaintiff attorneys have adapted their strategies in order to sort of get these higher, verdicts?
Absolutely, 100%. And I don't begrudge them for a minute, because they have a client, just like we have a client, and they are trying to create the most case value that they can for their client. Do I respect it? Sure. Do my clients like it? No way. Does it make our job a little bit more challenging? Absolutely. And I think, the plaintiff's bar, to their credit, they share a lot amongst each other.
Okay.
And the defense bar, not so much. We do, but not as much as you would want. I think they exchange ideas, they exchange information, they exchange really good scenarios, and they try and maximize value.
So you mentioned before about juries and basically, their perception of the healthcare industry in general, along with social inflation and all of those types of things. Do you think that specifically is what's driving these nuclear verdicts?
Really hard to say, because you're getting into the minds of people that, they really don't know. But I feel as though after COVID, there was a underlying resentment somewhere along the line, not even necessarily directed just to healthcare providers, but just in general to corporations and things of that nature, things that have an institutional element to them. And I'm not talking about, Dr. John Smith down the street who's been practicing medicine for the last 35 years. I'm talking about large, complex institutions that provide healthcare on a systematic basis.
Okay.
And I feel like some juries feel like it's open season, and it's really, really not. And these are people that provide really good care, that do their best to do so.
Right.
And I feel like they're really under attack, and that's why here at Burns White we're really honored to defend our healthcare providers.
Do you see any common themes or mistakes that tend to increase a defendant's exposure?
Yes, because I've seen them and I've lived them, and I've been the source of several. I'm not afraid to admit. Everything is about perception, Jen. It really is, like with juries. And so to the extent you don't humanize your institution in front of a jury, they're not going to see you or your client as someone that they would not sympathize with, but mitigate against in terms of the damages, and say, enough is enough. Let's give fair and adequate compensation. So you need to humanize your institutional clients really well.
So do you expect this trend to continue, or do you think we're going to see
I'll put it to you this way. I don't see anything changing. Everything I've seen, I am not seeing anything aside from possibly legislation, which will not occur in Pennsylvania. That's really the only thing that can stop it.
Right?
But either that, or we're getting our health care at Walmart, because a lot of these institutions are out of business. And is it all because of lawsuits? No. Is it a part of it? Absolutely. I don't care what anyone else says.
Sure.
The ability to get insurance, the cost of getting insurance for some of these institutions is through the roof. It's prohibitive. It is. It's prohibitive. So at some point, these hospital systems will say, is it even worth being in this market?
Right.
And we've had clients leave Pennsylvania specifically because of it. And I would expect others to follow.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Wow. Most important factor in preventing a nuclear verdict?
Oh, my goodness.
This is kind of your closing out question.
Yeah, really connecting with your jury on the front end. Because, Jen, in the trial, you get 2 chances to talk to a jury directly. One is your opening, and one is your closing. And, how you use that time is really, really key. And to the extent you can make a connection with a jury or jurors about a specific message, and you find people that are rational and they don't have an axe to grind, and you present a really good case with good evidence, and it comes in quote unquote clean, and your witnesses are prepared, it really has to be, you have to throw a perfect game.
Okay.
You really do because injuries are real. There's no getting around it.
Right.
And when people can't walk or they can't talk anymore, or a child has deficits forever, those are real injuries. And to the extent that that scenario enters a courtroom, people are going to want to be holding people accountable.
Sure. Yeah.
And you ask how to avoid it, and it's really making a connection. When you make a connection, your story gets through. If you don't make a connection, your story's not going to get through.
Yeah. Wow. Well, thank you
Absolutely.
for your insightful perspective on nuclear verdicts. I think it'll be interesting to see how the landscape changes over the next few years, and
I agree.
If this continues on. So appreciate you being with us today.
Thank you, Jen.
For those of you listening, please remember to like and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Thank you, Stuart.
Thanks, Jen.
The information contained in this podcast is considered an outline intended to be supplemented by an attorney. The information is not legal advice and should not be considered as such. Thank you for joining us. If you have any questions or comments regarding this episode, feel free to email us at podcast@burnswhite.com.